All right, hello again, everyone. It's Gene with GTV. We're back with episode 3. And episode 3, we have head coach Keith Chattin from John I. Leonard. Coach Chattin has a long recorded history in high school football where he actually played in Georgia and then went on to coach. So after his tenure in Georgia, he relocated to Florida where he landed in Tampa at Leonard High School. Over there at Leonard High School, they were a winless program where he actually got that program turned around and had back-to-back winning seasons just in 2 seasons, 8-2 and then 7-3 in such a short time. Well, that experience has now landed him in Palm Beach County. He's entering his 3rd season as the Lancers head coach. Now, despite the Lancers only being 2-8 last year, they were highly competitive in most of their games. And I did cover a couple of them, and I can recall how competitive a couple of them were winnable games easily. So welcome, Coach. Good to have you. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get right into it. Take us back to Georgia briefly. I know we spoke earlier a little bit, and that's a whole nother story in itself. But just brief background of your time in Georgia, and then how you actually made that transition and moved to Tampa.
Well, I played at a place called Worth County High School, we were 48-7 in our 4 years. We played for a Hall of Fame head coach, Coach Milt Miller, and
48-7.
48-7 in our 4 years. Played for
Wow.
two state titles and 2 semifinal appearances. But he told me early on, because I was that kid that asked a lot of questions. Never tried to over-analyze or prove him wrong. It's just ask a lot of questions. And he knew early on that I might have an interest in being a coach. And I said, I have no interest in doing what you do. But then, so after high school, I went to the military. And then I ran back into him when I got back home. And then he told me I need to get in college and go to school. And then he got me my first assistant's job at a place called Fitzgerald High School in South Georgia for another Hall of Famer, Coach Robbie Pruitt. And then I coached with him, and then I went to St. Pius from there in Atlanta with another Hall of Famer. So I've been around some really good guys over my career, and then I've really used what they did well and try to match that with what I do. And then
Sounds like it.
In Florida, my wife and I got married in St. Augustine, so we fell in love with Florida. So, we had a brief stop at Gainesville at Buchholz High School. The coach got let go, unfortunately. And then I got this job, I got the job in Tampa. And then, like you said in the preview, we turned that program around from a 0 for life team to a really good, highly competitive team, scoring a lot of football, scoring a lot of points. And then, we come down here, and now we're pretty much expecting to do the same thing.
Right. So you're trying to establish that same culture, that winning culture.
Exactly.
So with that transition from Tampa down to Palm Beach County, are there any differences? What was that transition like, and what are the differences between football in that area and in South Florida?
I think the athleticism is comparable in both. I think top to bottom, I think the kids really love football more in Tampa area than they do down here. I'm not saying the kids down here don't, but those kids in Tampa remind you of South Georgia kids. They really just fall in love with the process of the weight room, the film study, and the conditioning and the drills, and really come together. But I think down here now, especially at my school, I can only speak for my school, they're really adopting that behavior of how hard it is and how the work ethic is and what we have to do and how they have to buy into each other. So I think it's really come a long way down here, especially at my school. Right.
It's funny you bring up conditioning and the weight room, 2 very important things with a game like football. How important is it to put the time in the weight room and get that muscle mass increased, to put the weight on, to be able to compete with the bigger, faster, stronger guys?
Right.
I played the game many years ago, and the weight room was a huge part. And any of the players that didn't participate seriously in the weight room were the first ones typically that, just from what I've seen, that would sustain an injury. And sometimes it's potentially career ending. So I'm a real proponent of weightlifting, and now that they have weightlifting as an officially recognized sport with the FHSAA, they didn't have that when I was in high school. I would need a calculator to determine how long ago that was, but it wasn't a recognized sport like it is now. So I think that even adds more to try to get that interest peaked, to get in the weight room, not just for football, but to compete as well. I mean, so I really, I agree with you. I think it's important with the weight room. So let's talk a little bit about how important the relationship is between a coach and the players, or your coaching staff and the players. How important is that relationship and the bond between the coaches and the players?
Well, I think the first thing, you have to hire quality people. I mean, I think if you got a good head coach, I'm an offensive guy, of course, but I've coached defensive side as well, and I got a really good defensive coordinator. But when you start interviewing people, I think young coaches especially get so caught up in hiring whoever the hot coach is, or the athletic director may, or a principal may say, who's the hot guy? But you got to hire quality people. And you got to
Right.
hire good, positive men, and then you got to be able to get along with each other, because you're going to be around each other more than you're going to be around your families. And then you got to have people that really want to buy in and work, because a lot of guys these days don't want to really put in that effort. And I'm not saying you got to sit there on Saturday and Sunday and work all day and all night. You just got to be efficient with your time.
Right.
You got to find those guys that really love what they do, really love the kids, and really buy into the process of the head coach, and then echo that down from the position group to the players, and really buy into these guys' lives. And it's got to be more than football. I mean, it's got to be academics. It's got to be social. It's got to be outside of football. It's got to be walking the halls in the classrooms and stuff like that. And if they have an issue, talk to them. Make sure they understand that you're there for them. And it's got to have they got to be able to trust you. If they don't trust you,
Right.
then we're not doing the right job.
Right. Well, you bring up all those things that are more or less kind of behind the scenes type things that you have to manage, that you and your coaches have to manage. Let's get into that a little bit. It's all fun and great when we get to go to Friday Night Lights and watch the game. And, sometimes people are critical. Fans can be critical. Everybody can be a supporter and be great when times are going great, right? And everybody's winning. But when you face a little bit of adversity, or you're in the middle of trying to, rebuild a program, where are you at that point? Are you going to staying with the program? Are you going to be loyal? What's involved with, you just touched on it, and maybe you want to shed a little more light on that, like your tweets, keeping players engaged. How are you doing that, especially during a time now where spring football was basically shut down? Right. You had no spring game. You had no spring practice. We're still kind of in the midst of this pandemic thing. We don't know. They're opening the state. Most of the country is opening up, slowly. We still don't know if or when there. I believe there will be a season. It's just how is it going to get? How are we going to kick off? Pardon the pun, but how are we going to kick this thing off? And what are you going to do to kind of keep the players engaged? Well, social media and bonding and things like that.
Well, right now we have like Google Meets is what we meet on. We meet 4 times a week. After the last class is over, now school is officially out. So we meet 4 times a week. Monday and Wednesday are offensive meetings, and Tuesday and Thursday are defensive meetings. Then I'll either have a special teams meeting on Friday or a leadership council meeting on Friday. And then what we do is we don't keep them in there. 45 minutes is about the longest meeting we have, unless it's an issue we really need to talk about, like the events that just happened. We really like to give them a platform to speak on. And then on our huddle page, we have every position group separated on huddle, where the running backs on down to quarterbacks, offense line, defense line, stuff like that. Then we have a player captain in each position. And we just go through and make sure we stay engaged with them about what we need to do. We stay on their academics always. And then, we have tutors within the program that help the kids that need or that are struggling. And then we check grades, once or twice a week, and make sure everybody's up to par. And they're not up to par, we'll call the teacher, we'll email the teacher, or we'll get with the tutor or the kid and make sure that, they're doing what's right. And then if I need to, I'll contact the parents. But it's just everything's based on communication, and make sure we have a flow in communication. It's not all one-sided by me or a coach. It's got to be reciprocated all throughout with parents, teachers, administration, the kids, and just make sure they understand that we're there and trying to help them.
Right. It's not just X's and O's then.
Right.
It goes far. It goes far beyond that. So as far as, keeping them engaged that way, obviously football being a physical sport, they have to, kind of stay in shape, because we don't know when the FHSAA will allow them to start training, as a team. So what can you do as a coach to try to keep on top of these players who are going to come back to play for you next year so that they stay in shape, with the social distancing and safe practices? How are you doing that?
Well, we have some body workouts that we give out. It's just a basic body workout from top to bottom. And we can't do anything live with them. We can't do a Zoom meeting like this where we're actually instructing them because the county has said it's unlawful to do that. But
it's a violation.
Yeah, we get their position groups and stuff like that, and then it's player led where we like, the players like send me your video. Like they just counterbalance each other to make sure they're doing it, and then we ask them to go outside and make sure they get some sprint work in because we'll know the ones that are doing it or not doing it, but we want them to get outside and be active because we really made strides in the weight room right before that the school shut down. I mean, we saw bodies change and we saw the mindset change and we saw growth, and then this hit. So now I'm not a proponent of you have to lift heavy weights. You can lift body weight to stay in shape, but
right.
We had done so much gain through our program in the off season that it really hurt us, especially with a young roster. But we just want them to stay active and be acclimated when they get back. And then we got to be smart when they do return about how we go about our weightlifting and conditioning. We just can't go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. We got to really be smart about that.
Right. Fair enough. It's funny you mentioned that some of the players are recording what they're doing, their workouts, and I see a lot of that being on Twitter that players are recording their workouts. So if that helps them in any way, I guess it would. Do you feel that that's a good way for them to maybe kind of self-evaluate and see if they're doing proper technique or what they'll be able to?
I ask them to be really honest with themselves. If you're doing the work, we'll know when you get back. We'll see your body has you haven't put on a bad 20 pounds. We know you've done something. But I also encourage them to don't fall into that Twitter or that social media fault and then just do something enough for your video to be on there. And as soon as the video is posted, you start working out. Because there's a lot of that going around where people get on there for 5 minutes and really work out and say they're grinding, which is the word I can't stand the most in coaching. But I encourage them not to do a false video. Do the whole workout. You don't have to send it to me, but just be honest with yourself that you're working, and we'll know when you get back.
Right. Yeah. What are you doing when nobody else is watching?
Exactly. I mean, everybody doesn't need to see everything you're doing.
Right. Well said. Let's talk a little bit about expectations next season, when it starts. And again, we don't know when you guys are going to be allowed to start practicing as a team. Hopefully it's, soon. Talk about the squad. You guys really weren't with, I think, 13 graduating seniors. You were you relied predominantly on your underclassmen, only having 13 seniors. So you do have some holes to fill. One of them at the quarterback position with Jadale Cruz graduating. So talk a little bit about the squad, what your expectations are, and if last season kind of helped some of these younger guys going into this season.
Well, we played a combination of 19 sophomore and freshmen last year, and that's by design. I mean,
wow.
Where I've encouraged us to play the younger kid because, they're going to be in our program longer. And the quarterback position, JD, who's my senior quarterback that graduated, I mean, he was a true high school leader. He was a shorter guy, not the fastest guy, but he gave us everything he had. And he played well at times. He played bad at times. That's just the nature of a high school quarterback. And he did everything I asked him to do. He led the team the correct way. I mean, it was a team-centered atmosphere with him. But now his successor is Jacavian Williams. He was my slot receiver last year, but got hurt in the preseason classic game against Monarch. But I've never been as excited about one kid than in the whole 18 to 20 years I've been doing this, because the kid is just a football player. I mean, he is by far. He's
kind of tall, right?
Yeah. He's about 5'9".
Oh, is he? Okay, I thought he was taller.
His dad's about 6'3". So it's his dad's height, but he's fast. He's electric in open space. He can throw it. He can read coverage. He understands blocking schemes. He understands my checks. He understands the tempo I want to go in. And it's not just about him, though. We have a plethora of younger kids, and we're so excited. A lot of people think our coach is always positive about his kids. He's always saying they're going to be good. We're going to be good, when they decide it's time to be good because we have the talent.
Right.
That's weight room, that's academics, that's work ethic, and that's now it's executing on Friday night as a young man, but we're going to be good when they decide to be good.
When they decide to put the total package together.
Exactly.
Yeah. What other positions are you looking at, like that you have voids that need to be filled offensively and defensively? Line, in the trenches. We know how important the trenches are. Games are won and lost in the trenches.
Well, we returned 4 starters on the offensive line, so they were part of
huge
the movement. So that's great. And then a guy that's going to take over at right guard or right tackle, he's another young guy in that same sophomore junior class. So we're going to have 10 returning starters on offense after next season. So that's even better for us. But we graduated our top 4 wide receivers. But all 4 of those guys are going to college to play either Arkansas Baptist, Kentucky Christian, or something like that, or I think it's Arkansas Baptist, the other one. But the guys behind them, we got 8 guys that can get on the field a wide receiver. Now they just got to learn the system and learn how fast we play and learn the calls and learn the signals. And I think we're going to be much more athletic across the board at the skill positions. But on defense, it's the linebacker position and the D-line, because D-line, we really struggled mightily last year. And of course, again, I'm no excuse guy, but we were just too young and we weren't mentally or physically strong enough up front to hold up for our entire game. We played great defense at times, just like you alluded to the Wellington game. We played great defense for 3 quarters, and then it fell apart. And then, but we just got to make sure we're ready to go. I think we've groomed the right kids. The mindset has changed. Their attitude has changed about what they have to do. The work ethic has changed. So the D-line and the offensive line playing better and tackling a little bit better, and then playing a little bit more physical at the linebacker position. And plus, we have to have quality play from the new quarterback. And then we should be all right.
Does this allude that you might throw the ball even more than you already do?
I don't know if I can throw it any more than I already do.
You guys do air it out, but with eight receivers, I mean, that's quite an arsenal. So what about running back spot? It's
going to be by committee. I mean, last year we had Kenneth Charles. He's going to this university. He was very good. He didn't start the first 2 games, but in 7 games he had 916 yards.
Yeah, he was solid.
And if my quarterback didn't hog the ball on the read plays, Kenneth probably would have had about 15 touchdowns. But every time we got inside the 5, Kenneth JD's going to keep the ball, coach. Don't let him have a read. But that was just an inside joke with those 2 because they were fighting over the touchdowns. We got to replace a really powerful runner, straight line runner, but we got 3 or 4 guys. I think we're going to have to do it by committee. I don't think I can turn around and give it to one guy 20 times. I think we're going to have to do it with 3 or 4 guys and really isolate what they can do to help us better. But I think that's all right. The more guys you have, the more guys you're playing, the more involved everybody is, and then you're not just one guy. And then if he got hurt, we're in a situation. But I think we're going to be all right at the running back position.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the point system and your schedule. So you typically entertain a difficult schedule, year after year, and this point system that has been put in place. I think this is the 3rd season entering this new point system. Thoughts on that? Good and bad.
Well, I got in trouble last year at the ESPN media day because I said something because they asked me about our schedule then. And I said, what do you guys want me to do? You want to play all the private schools with 10 to 15 kids on their roster? I meant no disrespect about that whatsoever, but, we're an 8A program. And so for my kids to get to the pinnacle that I want them to get to, we have to play better football teams. And everybody kept asking me why I keep scheduling all these hard teams. I'm like, eventually you got to see how good you are or what you need to work on. And if we're playing a team that has 16, 17 kids, when we're an 8A roster, we're going to eventually wear those guys down. Now, there's some private schools that would just run us off the field with 20 players because all the 20 players are stout.
Right.
But I meant no disrespect in that whatsoever. And I even apologized to a couple of coaches that thought that I meant disrespect, but I didn't. But you have to play people that's going to get you points. And then our district, with us and Santa Lucia and Park Vista and Lake Worth, that's not a bad district at all. So you got to play that physical style of football. So, I want to play the better opponents and just to see where we're at. I don't want to take the easy way out and play somebody lesser than us. I want to play people that's going to push us and actually make us coach and make our players actually play and get better.
Right. So really, because the point system, there's so many things that are factored in with that,
Right.
strength of schedule being one of them, as you point out. So even though you may not come out on top in that game, that matchup against maybe a state ranked team, you still get points for taking on that match, right? The
Right.
game
And
with
this is, I mean, it's still a work in progress, I think. And I don't know if it's a finished product. It's going to be that way for the time being, it looks like. But I don't mind it. And, if you just handle business in your district, you still get to the playoffs. So the number one thing is just win your district. And then you don't have to worry about the points.
Right.
But if you lose your district, and then now you got to start worrying about points. So you got to have better quality football teams on your schedule.
Yeah. You have it used to be the district champion advanced, and then the runner-up advanced. It's not like that anymore. You had teams over the last couple of years that went like 8-2 and didn't make the postseason.
Right.
So that was just strange to see that. But I think there's pros and cons obviously with anything. So we'll see how it unfolds. This is going into the third season. We'll see. I want to talk a little bit about something with you that I saw last season in a game, and it's something that it's typically seen after all-star games where both teams will convene in the center of the field and do a debrief and talk about MVPs and stuff like that, and sponsors and scholarships, all good stuff. But you don't normally see it, and I can't recall last time I saw it in a regular season dogfight after you played Wellington in a dogfight, which was, I'll call it what it is. You guys were in a winnable game. It went down to the wire. So emotions ran high. Interviewing Coach Abel after the game, I didn't realize. I knew his father had just passed away, and but what I didn't know is that his father never actually saw him coach, and it got pretty emotional. It was an emotional moment for everybody once we found that out. And then you came over to both teams go to the ends, opposite end zones, and they do their debrief, and you made your way over and spoke to Coach Abel. I know you guys are friends, but addressed the team and the coaches and had a little thing there, which I thought was admirable because it's something that you just really don't see a whole lot of anymore. So anything you want to touch on with that? Or?
Well, I mean, like you said, it was one of the better games probably around the area last year because they won on the very last play of the football game. Now, we were leading. Well, they were leading most of the first half. Then we come back and took the lead in the third quarter, and then went back and forth. And it was a pretty well officiated game as well.
Yeah.
And, we didn't come out on top, which, I thought we played great for 3.5 quarters. But, that's just the way the ball bounces, and they made a play when they needed it. So you got to give them credit. And like you said, he and I are friends. We talk, and, we went to a clinic together, hung out together one weekend in St. Augustine at the clinic. I think he's a really positive, really good guy. We do a lot of the same things on offense. So it's two offensive-minded guys that are really aggressive in mindset on and off the field. And I knew he was going through some personal things. And then I just thought it was right just to, as a man, you don't have to hate each other to get your point across or try to win a football game. You can still like somebody and respect somebody and really do the right things. And with the upbringing in the profession that I've had, I've coached by a Hall of Famer, and I've worked for 2 other Hall of Famers. And it's the same kind of guidelines they would have done. I just thought it was the right thing to do. I thought he needed, a hug on the shoulder. He needed some reassurance. He needed I respect you. I'm sorry you're going through this. And the kids really appreciated it over there. I didn't do it for any grandstanding or any pat on the back. It's just, I just thought it was the thing to do. And then I think he would have done the same thing in return for me if I would have been going through that same issue. But football, it's a way to bring people together, not, take people apart. And there's always time to do the right thing and just shake hands, hug each other. You model great behavior for the kids. We're both passionate. We both yell at refs. We both probably do things we don't supposed to do on the sideline, but we got to model better behavior and show kids how grown men should act.
Yeah. And there's a common interest there, being part of the game and what you guys are doing for these student athletes. And I got to tell you, it was a special moment, even for me being really an outsider, but watching that, happened, I was just it was a special moment. So that I had to bring that up because, like I said, I thought it was a real special moment, and it was an admirable thing to do. So as you guys move into the summer, I know we kind of talked a little bit about it, but before you know it, it's going to be July and August. We're entering June in a couple of days. Actually, tomorrow I think is June 1st. So,
Right.
what are your plans moving into the near future with the guys? I know you talked about academically and the philosophies and stuff, but again, we're going behind the scenes as we press farther and deeper into the and we get closer to fall football. What are you working on right now?
Well, the immediate wrap up this week is I'll have to get a grade report and see where everybody's at academically, and if I need to get them any kind of Florida virtual classes or anything like that. But football wise, we just got to keep having meetings, and we got to go over our install. And I'm talking about a slow paced virtual install to where they're ready to go when we get back. And plus, we got to, they got to get outside a little bit and start really doing some more body workouts and really doing some sprint work, some conditioning on their own. If they can get in small groups in their neighborhoods and work on a little football stuff, like I told my quarterbacks, they can stand in front of a mirror and simulate the throws with a tennis ball just to get their shoulders and arms prepared to start throwing the football. But really, we just got to wait on the powers to be to say when we can come back, and then we got to study and follow the guidelines of what we can and can't do. And that's the major thing, to make sure,
Right.
first and foremost, I understand it, and then I got to, talk to my coaches about it and make sure we're all on the same page with it. Then we got to talk to the kids about it, and then we got to start acclimating ourselves back to normal. And hopefully it's sooner than later, but, safety first. Safety is the, foremost issue right now, but it's been too long without football. And for us guys that really love what we do, this is hard. And
Right.
The kids probably are just sitting at home, just bored out of their mind as well. But, like I told them and the coaches, study the playbook, study huddle, watch film, go outside and do your basic work, go outside and do the drills we do in individual period, just to get you back ready to what we got to do. And then whenever they let us go, just be ready.
Right. Well, and there's more to it, all important stuff. And, one of the things that stumbling across this, talking to the other coaches, spring football brings revenue, for the teams, because there's equipment that needs to be replaced year after year. And when you eliminate spring ball, you're losing that spring game, which, you have parking, and then you have, getting the ticket to get in the game. So there's a lot of revenue that's lost there. How do you guys plan on preparing for that?
Well, we would have been at home this year, so we would have got a lot more revenue than usual as opposed to a road game. But we lose the parking, we lose the ticket sales, we lose the spring fundraiser, whatever that might have been for the spring.
Right.
You're talking about $4,000 or $5,000 right there that we don't have. And then we've got all new equipment when I got here, but you still need to do certain things. You still need to buy a ball. You need to buy mouthpieces, buy more knee pads, because knee pads seem to be the thing that goes missing every single year from every program. Just now, how our business is going to react about donating money, donating supplies, or donating or buying a sign for the stadium. How are they going to react now with being out of work or out of business
Right.
a couple of months? So we got to be very creative, and hopefully we get it going. And there's a lot of different options we can go, but you don't want to sit there and press the issue so much where now it comes to a thing where you're only asking for money. We'll take donations. Like I told my parents, we're going to need bottled water when we get back. Yes, we can afford it, but, we got to be able to buy it, have it set up,
Right.
have wash stations for hands. We got to have, everything's got to be clean. Everything's got to be organized. Everything's got to be spaced out. So, we got to be really creative. And now we got to come together more so than ever with the parents and the administration and the community, and really touch base with them to see what all they're willing to do and what we're willing to do, and just go from there. But, yeah, we lost a lot of revenue by not having a spring game.
Yeah, there's a lot of work ahead, and it's
Exactly.
affected me as well,
Right.
with my photo business, and even as a freelance journalist, if there are no sports to cover, then there's no articles to write, there are no games to shoot, there are no banners to print, so everything kind of just came to a screeching halt for me as well, in so many ways, not just with the photos, but with the sports journalism as well. So it's just affected so many different people and so many different businesses on so many levels, and it snowballs. So hopefully, as we move forward, we start to develop plans and how we're going to tackle this and get back to some sort of normalcy. Because think about all the seniors. They didn't get to walk across the stage. They didn't get to go to a prom. They didn't some of them didn't even get a senior night because you had several sports,
Right.
Boys volleyball, you had baseball, you had softball, you had flag football, you had, all these other sports, lacrosse, cut short. It's just a real unfortunate thing. So, well, it sounds like you guys are doing some good things over there. We're looking forward to seeing you guys do some damage in Palm Beach County next year.
Hope so.
I'll be doing it from a distance, relocating to the north, but I will keep my roots deep into Palm Beach County, and I'll try to make it to a couple of rival games this year. I'm not sure which ones, but who knows? It might be a John I. Park Vista game or something.
Hey.
So it was good to have you, Coach. I appreciate it as always. Good luck next season, and great to have you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, speaking from all the coaches, we really appreciate what you do. We need more guys like you, but we really appreciate what you do for us.
All right, thank you. It means a lot. I appreciate that. Take care. Be safe, Coach.